Welcome everyone to another series of our Global Employability Expert webinar. So as you know, this is the webinar we run at Virtual Internships to make sure you have quality speakers and really interesting topics presented to you as part of your virtual internship program. And let's explore a little bit what this webinar is going to be about. And today's topic is career possibilities in the education industry in the Metaverse era. Super interesting topic. And before we jump into the topic, let me remind you how the webinar works, okay? So we are recording this session. You can rewatch it later on. You can share it with anyone you think might find it interesting. And we always have our webinars uploaded in our YouTube channel. We have our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. Later on, we're going to send an email with the link, or you can just type Virtual Internships Global Employability Expert webinar in YouTube, and you'll find our YouTube channel. You can ask questions. Please ask many questions during the session. We have the Q&A box there. You can ask all the questions for our speaker. And if you have any question related to your program, please reach out to your IM, which is a person you have been in contact with throughout this whole time. So let's meet our speaker, right, who's going to share many interesting things with us. And Mr. John Huen, he's a leading advocate for youth tech education in Asia. So we're very honored to have someone who knows a lot about tech youth education in Asia. This is really interesting. And John is the founder and CEO of Koding Kingdom and STEM Academy. He is an education committee member at the British Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong and Macau. He's the board of directors of the Swedish Chamber of Commerce, but I will let him introduce himself in detail. And so let's see what we're going to learn today in our webinar. So in this webinar, we will learn about trends of future skills, especially technological trends and new technologies, including Metaverse. We will also learn what exciting changes will Metaverse bring for education, as well as what this will mean for skill development in the foreseeable future. And we'll also learn about some Metaverse software such as Unity 3D, Roblox, and also the virtual technology and AR, XR concepts. Okay, so without further ado, welcome, John. Thank you for being here today. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Wonderful. I'm not too sure whether it would be right to say good morning or good afternoon or good night, but speaking very selfishly from my perspective, I am in Hong Kong at the moment. At the moment, it is 9 o'clock in the evening. So if you might allow me to say good evening for those who are coming from my time zone, and good afternoon for those probably somewhere on the eastern part of Hong Kong, and then good morning for those people who are in Europe or in Latin America. But very happy to have the chance to share with you what I'm experiencing and what I have done. It's always a big pleasure to share my experience. I think that if I have to bet, I probably am living longer than most of you on Earth. Therefore, I would have more experience to share with you. But this is a very simple casual chat, so I assure you that, especially Myrta mentioned about the connection with the UK. Let me quote a joke from a past king of England, King Henry VIII. You know, I will not keep you long, just like the way he has spoken to his wives. You know, right? So I won't keep you long. Anyway, this is wonderful experience to share with you what I'm doing. I know that a lot of people would start with a brief introduction to the speaker himself, and thank you so much, Myrta, for shedding a bit of light on my background. So let me go and do this sharing with my slides. Where is my slides? Where is my slide? It seems to have disappeared. Let me check, sorry. Oh, yes. Can all of you see my slides?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on introducing myself, but I think if you want to understand the things that I want to share with you, I think it would be better to understand a little bit of the background of the person sharing with you. So I'm from Hong Kong. And 2 days later, Hong Kong will be welcoming our 25th anniversary of our return back to China from the British hands, again, another British connection. And as a result, we have a very, very big guest coming to Hong Kong. The President Xi Jinping is actually coming to Hong Kong. A few days ago, it would have been state secret talking about his whereabouts coming to Hong Kong, but now it has become public knowledge. So I'll be very happy to share with you. Our president in China is coming to Hong Kong to celebrate with us the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. I was born here in Hong Kong, but I spent a lot of time studying overseas, and then I also had worked in China for a long time. Most of my time had been in the gaming industry. Although in the introduction I was introduced as an educator, I've never been a proper bona fide teacher teaching in a state school. I was actually a gamer. Some people even framed me as a bad guy because I was in the gaming industry. And my job was to promote gaming to young people and to adults. So some people would have thought I was more like the trader of spiritual opium. And now I'm coming back to my proper career to sell coding education for young people and have turned myself into a good guy again. But that again is joke, right? Anyway, I have pretty diverse experience in the gaming industry, and also after selling my company, I came back to Hong Kong and started to do some public service. I was invited by the government to join the Artificial Intelligence Committee, giving advice on the government how to drive artificial intelligence development in the region, and also, of course, how to drive AI education for young people. And then I am also a big fan of the Nordic way of education. As you know, the Nordic way of education has been extremely popular in the world, especially Finland. And I also have a lot of friends working there. So as a result, I have some connections with the Swedish community in Hong Kong and also the Finnish community in Hong Kong. And I do learn a lot from these people. So I think today's main topic is more about employability. I'm sure you understand something about employability, and I think one of the key reasons why you are all going to a university and trying to get a degree, aside from getting knowledge, securing experience, I think one of the key reasons is to make sure you enhance your employability, and there is nothing wrong with that. I keep telling my colleagues and even my kids, there is nothing wrong for you to study a degree for life. Perhaps this is something that a lot of people refuse to admit, but in fact, that is also something a lot of people are practicing ever since they were born. So I think there is nothing wrong to do anything to increase your employability, either through education or through job rotation or experience. If that is the purpose, then of course the logical question is what kind of work and what kind of study or what kind of path I should go down in order to increase my employability and therefore my future in a material way. And I think that is a legitimate question, and that is something I want to share with you today. Well, before we do that, I have a bit of a video. I want to cut it short, but I think it will be better for me to play it shortly without infringement of any people's IP. But I think it would be beneficial for some of you, or for all of you, to have a taste of it.
The conversation about the future of jobs and skills is one of the most important in education. A student entering formal education today will be making decisions about their career by the year 2030. But wait, we already know about the future of jobs. The robots are taking them, right? Let's take a step back. Anxiety about workers being replaced is rampant, but fear of automation is nothing new. Fears of technologically driven unemployment have arisen throughout the centuries, usually provoked by a disruption, like the Industrial Revolution. But historically, technology creates more jobs than it destroys. Of course, we don't know if it will be different this time, but we do know that automation is only one part of the story. Equally important are other interacting trends, including changing demographics, urbanization, globalization, inequality, political uncertainty, and climate change. What do we mean by interacting? Consider for a moment the following. Urbanization and globalization are trends that are interacting with and component parts of climate change, all of which are driving the green sector. Currently, the green economy is creating new jobs faster than jobs are disappearing in the polluting sectors. But in the face of increasing inequality, the high consumer cost of green energy could slow demand and job growth. In addition, investments in green technologies are deeply intertwined with government policy, making prospects even more uncertain. Understanding how these trends interact is clearly complex. It is also critical to understanding the jobs and skills needed in the future. That's why Pearson teamed up with researchers from Nesta and the Oxford Martin School to move the conversation past automation. Our forward-looking research combines the best of human expertise with the conversation about the future of jobs and skills is one skills.
All right, so I think the rest is a little bit advertising by the original creator of the video, but I think the main point is about how technology is not just reshaping the world that we are living in, but also the employability and landscape of every one of you. I think it is giving you a very good clue about if you really want to get yourself ahead of other people, what kind of skill sets you have to secure. And then this is a quote from, I think, the United Nations, and they talked about the top 10 skills of 2025. Let me quickly walk you through some of the key points. Analytical thinking and innovation. I'm sure some of you would know about this. Active learning and learning strategies. I think that is something that maybe some of you have missed, because the key part is active learning rather than passive learning. A lot of us, especially in Asia, have been going through a path of passive learning. We learn things that we are told, and things that have been structured by our predecessors, by our teachers, and by our parents. Active means you have to proactively go out and reach out to craft your own learning path, and to gather information that will be relevant to you, and also use your own filter to digest and understand those materials. And that is especially important in an era when we are showered with all kinds of information, and you can't afford to absorb every bit of them. So you have to have the ability to actively reach out to those information that will be relevant to you. Complex problem solving. I think the key is not about problem solving, it's about complex. Why problems are more complex these days? Because things are coming in multi dimensions, and then things are also not just involving machines, but also an interaction between human beings and also machines, and sometimes even involving the nature. So that makes things very complex these days. Critical thinking and analysis is always very important. These days, we talk a lot about creativity, originality, and initiative. Again, initiative, I think, is one of the key words here, because um, it doesn't strike people or surprise people to ask for creativity and originality. But initiative, again, I think echoes point number 2 here in this list. We have to go out and really take the proactive steps to find our path, whether that is your career, whether that is the training path, and whether that is your analytical framework. So initiative also will be very important. Leadership and social influence is getting very important. It doesn't mean that you have to be a manager or a leader in a group. Leadership could be a tactical thing, because a lot of things are now being grouped and solved in small constellations of people, and there are groups, and there are people who play different roles, and there has to be a leader in a group to drive the progress and to lead discussions. And whether or not you have the determination to become a leader of a big group, you also need leadership skills. Then these 2 points are very important because they relate to technology. We need to know technology, not just its existence, but also the beauty, its applicability, and its limitations. And of course, there will be the scope of use, utility, and also the cost that comes with it, and also the design and programming. Now, my main business in Hong Kong is to run a youth tech academy. Basically, we teach young people technology. The point is not that we are grooming every one of them to become a future IT professionals. Of course not. What's the point of teaching coding to a 5-year-old and try to turn him into an IT person? No. Rather, on the contrary, our mission is to introduce the beauty of technology to young people. If he happens to be afraid of technology, we want to help him to overcome the fear of technology. If he is already into technology, we want to lead them to recognize the beauty of technology, at the same time the limitations of technology. So that is our work, and this is one of the most fulfilling work that I've been doing in my life. Resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility is even more important because stress is everywhere. I kind of feel that for some reason, our generation, younger generation these days, is not as resilient as we used to be when I was younger. And I can explain that because when I was young, in my part of the world, uh, material life wasn't that wonderful. So we have to fight for our future. And nobody could guarantee that we would have a degree. But I know that these days, in many parts of the world, doing a higher degree probably is not that limited, right? And you guys are facing an altogether different environment and landscape from my time, and therefore, maybe there is a general lack of situations where you have to fight very hard. And sometimes when we are put into a very stressful situation, you will find it difficult to handle. So resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility is very important. Reasoning, problem solving, ideation is very important. But ideation, I think, in this point is the key word because whereas it is easy to understand the importance of reasoning and problem solving, but ideation is the key step you need to take in order to form your idea and how to create a problem, how to piece together different ideas and make them a solution that can solve your problem. I think that's the whole process of ideation. It's not easy. um, and then I don't want to go into too much detail about all these definitions about analytical thinking. We briefly talked about the importance of that and also the methods to develop all these kind of skills. Of course, you need to be observant. You need to keep learning new things. But I think that whatever directions that we are doing, we cannot run away from technology. So technology, what is technology and why technology is so important these days? Because we know that, especially in my generation, we did not receive a lot of technology learning. I don't want to say anything that might have betrayed my actual age, which is not a sensitivity issue, but I think um, um, when I was a student, you can't imagine university students without access to his own laptop. You can't imagine what kind of a university life it would look like. It would look like without access. I was born to a time when I was doing a university degree without my own laptop, without the internet, and perhaps even without my mobile phone. And it was difficult. I think when I just finished my master degree, then I started to enjoy the beauty of using email through the VAX system, VAX.
John,
I'm
sorry,
sure.
do you want to remind us what you studied for your bachelor and for your master's?
Me? Oh, I am an engineer
Yeah.
by training from Hong Kong University. And then I have the privilege of doing a higher degree in Oxford in management studies philosophy.
Thank you.
It's an interesting combination of qualifications. But I think that diverse background is also very common in even the undergrad level in a lot of the university degree programs around the world. I guess this is important because we are now living in a world of pluralism. Although it is important to go deep along one line of knowledge, it is also at the same time to have a wide spread of knowledge. So, for example, an engineer cannot just afford to know how to calculate. They also need to work with people. They also need to calculate cost. They also need to run programs and teams to get things done. They even need to use a lot of softwares to program and to come up with a lot of computational algorithms for calculations of all kinds of parameters. Um, but I guess even today, I would not stress a lot on the person's educational qualifications because skill sets keep evolving. And I think the key is not about looking backwards of what you have studied. I think the key is, like what we are doing now, to look forward towards things that we need to continue to beef up ourselves with. I think that's the key point. So we are seeing a lot of shifts in technology. We are seeing people applying cryptocurrencies, NFTs these days. There is a lot of talk about NFTs, and I don't want to go into too much detail today, but I want to point out to the fact that these are not a space language. And I would encourage all of you to continue to become open about absorbing these new concepts, because you might think that because I'm an art student and therefore why should I care too much about cryptocurrencies or cybersecurity, NFT? No, not exactly. I think we all have to have a general liking and openness about understanding more about technologies, because technology is now everywhere. And from one kind of technology, you can find your way into a career. I think that's something that is amazing. For example, one of my cousins, he is a social science student, so he could not imagine that one day he would go into technology. But when he's thinking about technology, he's actually talking about doing social media marketing for a big retail company. He can't imagine that he's now able to write a program that can help a retail chain to track the SEO, the search engine optimization strategy of his products, of his websites. He can design the social marketing strategy, and he can understand and come up with all kinds of social media parameters that can be presented to the top management. If he didn't say what kind of degree he has done before, nobody believes that he didn't have a technology degree. But the things that he has been doing actually is very technology driven. So I would encourage all of you to continue to pay attention to the latest technology trends. Doesn't mean that you need to go deep, very deep, but you begin to see by looking at the trends, the commonalities. In fact, when the technology can come within your radar screen, there must have been many waves of filtering that have made the technology available for use in the retail market and have come into your attention. And I think that should not be a technology that would make it very difficult for you to understand. It doesn't need a PhD in computer science to understand NFT, for example. So I would encourage you all to continue to pay attention to the latest trends in technology. NFT is a big thing, and I know that some people have claimed earning a lot of money, but I want to caution you against something. Although a lot of people are talking about the latest trend in NFT, my feeling is perhaps a bit of a bubble is being pumped in the market. And we all have to understand a technology could be a new technology, but whether that is an industry, I think that also needs a bit of review from your personal perspective. Now, I think this diagram talks about the latest technology trends that would have tremendous impact on the population. Mobile internet, easy to understand. Everyone, I'm sure, has a mobile phone. In my part of the world, we are already using 4G and 5G, and we are already talking about advancement in the 6Gs. And I don't know how much you know about the mobile technology, but if you see the increase in number, it's not just the speed that we are talking about, the speed of downloading a file. We are also talking about increasing the width of the IP address, and therefore, the longer the IP address, the more functions we can put inside the packet, and therefore more security and more other functions we can put inside the mobile communications. And we are also talking about from an infrastructure perspective, how to do the analysis, whether we do it on your mobile phone or whether we do it on the edge, for example, on the router in the mobile network, or perhaps even in the cloud through some kind of big system and servers. So it's a very big thing. I couldn't think of any other country that are seriously experimenting 6Gs apart from China. I don't know if they can export the technology given the current technological climate these days, but I can share with you things are moving very fast in China. Some of the townships in China are even using the 6G technology to drive drones and driverless cars. And these are all made possible with very high-tech 6G or 5G networks. Automation of knowledge work, easy to understand. IoT is also something that we believe will become something big. Cloud, easy to understand. And I'm sure everyone is using Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud or Microsoft Cloud. Is an easy way to handle information. 3D printing is not just um, a technology for education purposes. It is really, really in real applications when we talk about, for example, uh, replicating a certain part of the body or replicating even a car. And it's very interesting in in a township next to where I'm living. The contractor companies are already using a 3D printing machine to spray concrete on the construction site and build a house, and you'll be amazed how quickly they can build for example, a 3-story house in about 24 hours. It's so amazing. It's practically free printing most of the components of the building. So a lot of things. I think the limit of ability and applicability is as high as the sky, but perhaps unlimited. So in the view of these massive possibilities and technologies, there is no way I could cover everything within the space of 45 minutes or 1 hour. So I would like to point out one key trend that is particularly being talked about these days: metaverse. Right? Everyone is talking about metaverse. I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, probably are using Facebook, and I'm sure a lot of you already know that Facebook has already changed their name into a new name called Meta. So metaverse is becoming something new, but what is it about and why is it important? Now, there are all kinds of definitions for metaverse, but to put it in simple terms, basically it is the 3D models in the virtual world that we can socialize, educate one another, work, and play and compete. That's a very high level definitions that would be very comprehensible from a layman perspective. And I would like to point out, basically, there are all kinds of technologies, but it breaks down to two key technologies: virtual reality and augmented reality. If you already are playing games and, like me, a semi-professional gamer, you have no difficulty understanding how to operate Oculus 2. Does anyone know how much an Oculus 2 is now being sold on the market? I think that's about I need to convert that into US dollars, okay? Because in Hong Kong dollars, it's 3,500. But say it's about 450 US dollars. And you know that Oculus 2 is now the most popular VR headsets. But this is just the beginning. And I can assure you, within 1 year, and remember what I say today and come back to listen to my speech 1 year later, I'm sure 1 year later there will be a lot more user-friendly spectacles like the one that I'm wearing that are equally applicable or defined as VR goggles, and it can give you all the benefits of enjoying or immersing yourself in the virtual world. It could give you a lot of data. If you look at something, perhaps the age and a lot of the personal data of a person. You voice out a destination, and then you will be guided simply with all the information you see in your spectacles, the way to go to your destinations. Um, uh, and you don't have to wear the bulky Oculus 2 headset that is being done anywhere. So a lot of things are happening, and actually I've also seen a model from a very famous European brand. It's a VR goggle that looks like exactly like a simple spectacle, very trendy, and without even a big pair of glasses. So things are moving very fast. This is a video that we extract from Facebook. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to play it now. You can easily go and see the video from the internet. But I think basically it gives you a very good understanding and glimpse about what kind of life we can envision in the metaverse. And the key is you can be connected to a lot of people or in the virtual space for all kinds of purposes, whether that is socialization, whether that is education, working, co-working, competing, entertainment. These are all increasingly made possible in the metaverse. Well, my colleagues have included a lot of videos here. So anyway, what is metaverse and what is it 4. So Metaverse is a different kind of universe crafted entirely within the realm of technology. It's a massively scaled network with real world and 3D virtual world. It's an evolution of social interaction, including 3D spaces and the metaverse, and it can help us socialize, learn, collaborate, and play in unimaginable ways. I think the key words here is unimaginable, because in the metaverse, you would have endless number of possibilities that we cannot even experience in the real world. Imagine you are Mr. Huen in the real world, and you can immediately convert yourself into another person, even a female, a completely different gender from the real world. You can assume another identity and traverse in different virtual worlds, in different identities, and enjoy different parts of life. In China, we have this old envious convention. I mean, envious from a male's perspective, you can keep a number of wives. Okay, so now in reality, by law, we cannot do it, right? Aside from the financial reasons, but in reality, in the metaverse, in theory, you can have different kinds of spouses and partners in different virtual worlds, right? With different identities. You could be a wife of somebody else in virtual world A. You could be the husband of another person in virtual world B. Right. So all kinds of possibility, and that would also generate a lot of ethical issues, privacy issues, and that is still a debate that is going on. Interesting. I'd like to, if possible, point you to a paper that is written by some professors in Hong Kong, but already have received extremely good accolades from the international audience. It talks about the evolution of the metaverse from being a mere presence in the internet through a combination of 3D virtual worlds with different brands, with different functions. I know, for example, Meta is creating its own version of the metaverse, and that doesn't seem like it will be universally seamless with other versions of metaverse. Microsoft, for example, is also creating its own versions of the metaverse. They call that Mesh, and I see no short-term chance in the near future they could be merged with each other. Roblox is a very popular game developed in the US. I see that is a separate metaverse, and again, I do not see any real chance that somebody in Roblox can move freely into into Meta, and then also into Merge being created by Microsoft. But that's the essence of metaverse, and that also again is another topic. People begin to talk about, okay, I understand the beauty of metaverse because you allow people to traverse and do all kinds of things, borderless, boundaryless. There is no longer any friction. But in reality, all the boundaries and walls are being created by human beings simply for commercial reasons. And I do not believe that it can be resolved very soon in the near future. But there will be some kind of compromise by the commercial companies. Immersive learning is also something I really want to point out. Now, there are all kinds of applications within the metaverse. There could be socialization, there could be collaborations. But in my realm of expertise, I talk about education. As an educator, I believe the metaverse would create immense reality. And of course, I know that somebody's virtually appearing on my background. He is actually my son, uninvited, but I want to make him disappear. But there are
Say
all
hello
kinds
to
of
your
yes.
to your son.
He's a 14-year-old engineer.
What?
Very
Engineer.
yes, he's very fond of technology, science,
Wow.
and STEM subjects. He's also passed the international exam on Python last year. Anyway, when I talk about application of education in the metaverse, I'm specifically talking about revolutionizing the learning experience in the metaverse. And when I talk about the new experience of learning in the metaverse, I talked about immersive learning. I'm not sure if some of you already understand what immersive means. If that is a new word for you, let's imagine if you're learning something. Traditionally, we only use a few senses of our organ to learn, right? We see the text, we smell something, and we hear the words of the teachers, or we look at the videos. Okay, let's imagine we also learn by immersing, to use the word in a general sense, immersing ourselves in the process, and then we begin to play around with something, feel it, touch it, build it in a way that works like a craftsman building something, right? That's what we mean by immersive learning. In normal sense, sometimes it will be very difficult to learn immersively. For example, if a medical student wants to learn the mechanism of workings of a heart, most of the time they only listen to the explanation of the teachers, pointing the fingers through different artery, pointing out the direction of the flow of blood. But in the metaverse, we can create an altogether different experience of learning. We can actually see, for example, like we going inside a building, the body of a human being, see with a naked pair of eyes the pumping or the vibration of the sound of the working heart. We could feel the temperature of the blood, and we can see the movements of the valves of the heart in the virtual world. I think that would be something that would tremendously help with learning. Let's say, for example, if we are learning the mechanics of space rotation, we immerse ourselves into the galaxy, and then we can make ourselves swing like one of the satellites, and we can understand quickly from a K-12 student perspective why there is eclipse. I find it difficult to explain the concept of eclipse to my 12-year-old daughter. She's doing the English curriculum, but if we learn it immersively in the metaverse, we could actually ride on a star and see the relative movements of stars, Mars, Sun, Moon, and quickly understand in an immersive way how all the galaxy satellites work with each other, and therefore understand a lot of the somewhat difficult or ambiguous concepts. So this is the importance of immersive learning. So I talked about the importance of technology bringing into the new trend of metaverse, and try to narrow myself down into talking about the application of metaverse in the space of education. Although education definitely is not the only application of the metaverse, but in the application of the metaverse in education, the key is about creating immersive learning for our students. So the benefits of immersive learning increase children's motivation, create an emotional connections, and create a personalized learning approach, provide a distraction for free environment. So that brings into the whole environment of using virtual reality to learn new things with the latest technology gadgets, right? So we can wear a gadget. I don't know whether you've done it yourself, but if in case you haven't, buy one, and then you can go inside the world and see for yourself what it feels like. It's an altogether different learning experience. So VR is very important because we would have the ability to surpass methods which are passive, tell and test and click through, and we can also connect learners from all over the world. I think it would be easy for you to imagine if you are going to learn in a small campus in the metaverse, and then sitting next to you could be student coming from, for example, like Merta, coming from Argentina, talking about the same topic, competing for attention of the teachers with you. Sitting in the metaverse, you have, for example, another person coming from Africa, arguing with you, not in a 2D environment, but in a 3D environment. And then they might even exchange pumps with each other, I think in the extreme situations. I know time is running up. This is not a talk about deep technology, but I hope that at least today I can come up with a line of logic. Technology is very important. Whatever subjects or majors you are having, find your technology, try to understand and like technology in your livelihood, and then pay more attention to metaverse, which seems to be the key trend, one of the key trends of technology development. And within this key trend, there will be tremendous applications in a lot of aspects of life: education, entertainment, socialization, collaboration. And I have just shared one key concept of metaverse application in education, which is immersive learning. There are many things, and immersive learning is made possible by AR and VR, and this is still a field that is still evolving. Maybe next time when we meet, there will be new goggles coming out from, I don't know, maybe from Gucci. And then there will be all kinds of immersive learning content being marketed on the Metaverse. There will be new contents explaining, for example, a kind of disease within the brain. It could be a very immersive learning content that explains the mechanics of Einstein's theory of relativity. There could be another type of immersive learning content that can substantially improve the learning process of a complex working of the neurons, for example. So these are some of the high-level sharing that I'll be very happy to share with you. And I hope that in the second time when we meet again, there will be new developments in the Metaverse, and particularly there will be new applications. In fact, my company is quite famous in a few in Asia. And one of the things that we have been building is the Metaverse version of the classroom. You'll be surprised, what is happening now in the schools in my part of the world is a lot of the schools are trying to recreate a virtual presence in the metaverse. So on the one hand, they have a physical version of their campus in a certain part of the map, but at the same time, they are asking us to use Unity, a very commonly used software to build a virtual presence, an exact replica of their physical versions. But along with that, we build new functions within a classroom, and along the physical real versions of their campus, we also build other things. For example, a massive playground that is not possible in Hong Kong. We build a gymnasium for students, so students can easily navigate between a classroom into and other space within just by a click, and students can enjoy all kinds of activities. And then there will be master classes. Can you imagine within the metaverse there will be extremely high quality master classes? Traditionally, students learning are somewhat limited by this kind of physical limitations. We have very smart teachers teaching in school one, and then my school doesn't have very good teacher in that subject matter, and I have to settle with a less than desirable teacher in maths, for example. But in the future, all the students can learn within the same metaverse, and the best teachers from anywhere in the world can come out and lead a massive class, and we can give the best learning experience for a massive amount of students. Let's imagine there will be a debating contest. A lot of people can come and rank and watch the competition. Imagine there will be beauty contest from 5 continents in a secondary school beauty contest attended by students from 5 continents, and each one of us can watch and also rank. Imagine there will be a master classes talking about, for example, GCE A-level maths by somebody sitting, I don't know, in the middle of Latin America, but addressing 200,000 students from everywhere in the world with the highest level of teaching skills. So possibilities are everywhere, and I hope that we would come together and build something that will be beneficial to mankind in the future. So I think time is coming to an end, and I'll be opening up the floor.
We still have a couple of minutes because, wow,
Right.
John, that has been amazing. I'm so inspired and excited and motivated because, like, yeah, I really felt this right. I got excited when you were mentioning, like, especially this idea of having a world-class university lesson where everyone can join, and so many things we could do, like all the possibilities that are there are amazing, right? And
Right.
one thing I was thinking is, like, okay, in this new universe, parallel universe that the metaverse is, what kind of jobs will there be? Like, people will have jobs inside the metaverse. How does that work? What does that mean? Like, for me, it's like, wow.
Wonderful. I think that's a very good question, especially from an employability perspective. I think, first of all, the emergence of the metaverse, at least for the education sector, would bring about a whole career of extremely high degree of content builders. And that is something that I am already envisioning in one of the papers that I co-authored with some of the university professors. There will be a marketplace coming out to market extremely high quality immersive learning contents I mentioned some examples. For example, in the space of biology, you need a game studio people, a game studio team of caliber of people to build, for example, a teaching content of 5 minutes to talk about the workings of the heart, for example. And that would allow people to go inside the vein and look at the vein, the heart from a very, very minute level of detail. So I think a content producer, content creator is definitely in the metaverse, in the space of education. It will be a big career. Let's not forget, all these metaverse technologies, most of them are game technologies. So any schools that are already producing game developers, they are already producing metaverse content providers. But of course, with a bit of help from the educational sector, we need also professional people to guide how to design the content. But I think immersive content creator will be a big and new profession, if so to speak, in the future. I also believe there will be all kinds of people who are the equivalent of the roles in the real world. There will be, for example, law enforcement people in the metaverse. You need people to maintain order in the metaverse. You need people to maintain the infrastructure of the internet. And there will be agencies like the UN inter-platform agents. They will talk about interoperability issues. I talked about this real issue that the metaverse being built by Meta doesn't mix with mesh that is being created by Microsoft. You need people to come up with some kind of common standards so that all these proprietary platforms can work together. My dream, and I don't think that is a remote dream, perhaps within 5 years, it will be feasible because people see the big benefits of merging all these proprietary metaverses together. So I won't be too surprised in 5 years' time there will be an avatar. For example, avatar means your face in Meta, and you can easily transport yourself or teleport yourself into mesh of Microsoft using the same avatar. This is already happening in Roblox. You can use the same avatar to traverse between different games, and a game can also be called a metaverse itself. So I think in the future there will be all kinds of people building different types of metaverses or mini metaverses, but they would be meshable or interoperable with other proprietary platforms. And there will be people, just like in the real world, setting standards, facilitating interoperability among different platforms. And of course, there will be agencies to settle disputes among the people. Say, for example, somebody pretending to be A in Metaverse B. What if he pretends to be B in another person, another identity in another metaverse? How do we protect his right? These are all kinds of ethical issues, and that requires another new type of profession to enforce these new things. So the reason, and that is one of the reasons why I specifically talked about the importance of metaverse, because the metaverse is related closely to our earthly, fleshly world. But at the same time, they also create huge, endless amounts of possibilities for people behaving and working and learning and educating in the metaverse. So I think this is actually where we can see so many new types of careers.
That's amazing. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about all the possibilities that this can bring, that this will bring, and it's amazing. For me, this was science fiction. I'm a little bit older than our audience, so I saw this in movies.
I certainly cannot tell that.
Seeing it in reality is wow. So someone is asking, what if my major doesn't have to do with technology? And also we have another question that asks, how can I adapt and develop my skills in this world that is all the time changing? Which I think they both go in the same sense, right? What kind of advice you can give us to really start learning more about technology and start learning how to, and taking advantage of, start like little by little introducing ourselves in this new world and start taking advantage of when the time comes of the possibilities of the metaverse.
Right, wonderful. So I think that's a very good question. Also, one that is timely in a fast changing world. Now, first of all, we cannot go back the time tunnel, right? You started doing an arts degree, right? There is no point for you to completely delete your memory of what you have learned in an arts degree and say this is a technology era, and therefore there is no point for me to keep my memory of the literature. In fact, this kind of information would always be useful. But my point is, remember a keyword that I've always used: technology. Technology doesn't mean that you need to use technology to delete your past memory. In fact, technology is helping you to revitalize, perhaps monetize your past knowledge. There is no such thing as useless knowledge. All kinds of knowledge is cumulative and useful. If you are, for example, worried about being an art student and therefore you cannot survive in the technology world, this is bullshit. I think this is there is a lot of possibilities. You can leverage your artistic skill or your literary skills in a technology world. In fact, in the technology world, or in the case of most technologists, one of the key ingredient that is so lacking is their literary skills. But I think, to use an example, how to find a job that would give you a good income, for example, as an art student, I think an easy way is to start exploring the new technologies. And if you learn new technologies, you can use the same logic and your literary skills and artistic skills, and it is never too late. You would not be losing on the starting point. There is no such thing as losing on the starting point. There is only losing at the final point. There is no such thing as losing at the starting point. So as an art student, for example, or social science students coming from a non-technical background, you could always reskill and upskill yourself with additional training in technology. You could easily find all kinds of online courses on YouTube, on Coursera, on LinkedIn to beef up your technology skills. You don't, of course, need to be very hands-on technology people. For example, 10 years ago, it would have been very difficult for you to build a website, for example. And now these days, there are all kinds of easy tools for non-techie people to build a wonderfully mobile-friendly websites like Wix, Editor X, Squarespace. A lot of the tools are being built for non-techie people. And the key is not about your technological skills. In fact, that doesn't factor too much. What matters more is your literary skills and your artistic skills and your ability to structure a user experience that will be sticky, that will make the customer experience sticky and entice sales. I think these are the soft skills that are still universal. So a lot of upskilling courses you can do. One of my favorites pastime is to do some short videos on LinkedIn. I'm a premium user of LinkedIn. That seems a bit expensive for a lot of students. I think it would have cost you at least $800 to get a subscription, an annual premium subscription. But with that premium account, I could do a lot of the free training. So I think basically there is no shortage of opportunities of learning. There is only shortage of determination and patience.
Yeah, so talking about your LinkedIn, I'm going to share it here so students can connect with you. And we have a
Please.
last question.
Right.
So any recommendations about sites, websites where we can find the latest trends and updates about the metaverse? Do you know anything, or where can we find more about
I think that's a very good question. As far as I know, there are already tons of books being published about Metaverse for beginners, for non-techie people. And specifically to talk about the application of the Metaverse in application, industry, or in schools, I would recommend a paper written by Brookings. There is a think tank in the US called Brookings, BROOKING, I think. Is a very famous think tank in the US, and they published a paper on metaverse in education in September last year. I think that's a report that I would say is perhaps the best for commoners to understand how metaverse would impact education in general. Other than that, I think there are handy sources you can understand the basics, the technology driving metaverse. But I think the debates will be less on the general mechanics of of Metaverse, but more on how it affect individual industries. So I think if you are coming from a legal background, you might want to see the legal implications of the Metaverse from a legal perspective. From an education, of course, we talk a lot about the implications to the education industry of the Metaverse, and then from a working perspective or co-working perspective, there are a lot of things you can learn about the impact of the Metaverse for the working environment. Of course, with all the ramifications on reskilling and upskilling.
Well, I feel so inspired. Like, honestly, this has been an amazing talk. I've learned a lot, and I have now great insights on all the opportunities that there are in the Metaverse, especially when we think of skills we can develop and the potential of using these skills in a way to learn and to keep on advancing ourselves in skill development and career opportunities. So thank you very much, John. This has been super, super interesting. And for everyone, you can stay connected with John. We've just shared his LinkedIn. So remember, it's a good opportunity to always stay in touch with our speakers. And everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed this webinar as much as I did. Remember, you can always, yeah, can you please write down the names of the book you mentioned?
I mentioned the name of the paper.
Yeah,
the paper by Brookings. Yeah, let me get at that. I need to go back to the internet to search it.
Okay,
but,
you can send it to me, and then I can send it to our participants later on.
Of course, of course.
So everyone, thanks for being here today. And remember, you have 2 coaching calls in your program. If you haven't taken yet your coaching calls, you can still do it. You will probably receive an email soon about it. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I wish you all a really nice day. Thank you very much, John.
Yep. Good luck, and talk to you later.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice day.